The party continues here in studio. So away from wigs and weaves and luxury high-end products, now let's dive into the world of tech. Now here's the thing. In the entire continent, there are about 442 tech hubs in Africa. 442 tech hubs in Africa. That sort of gives you an idea that technology within Africa continues to become popular. And a lot of it at the center are young people. But even on that same note, Africa's startups raised about $560 million. Not Kenyan shillings, dollars, the Benjamins, last year in 2017. Again, young people are at the heart of it. And where are Africans in this atmosphere? Well, like I promised you today morning, I'm going to introduce you to two people who changed their career fields completely from what they were doing originally and became software developers. So in case you might want to, or you're thinking of a career move right now, maybe this could be it. You never know, all right? So sit closer to me. I have Eugene Mutai. Eugene Mutai is a senior software developer at Andela. And of course, Caroline Wanjiko, she's a software developer as well. It's so good to have both of you here.
Thank you.
You know, we were busy teasing behind the scene that, Eugene here has fantastic hair. He's making us girls in studio look like we're not serious. But it's okay. So let me begin with you, Eugene. Tell me about your story. How did you find yourself becoming a senior software developer? Because that's not where you originally started from.
No. It was even neither the plan.
It was not the plan?
No. So from high school, I wanted to be like, I'm really good in drawing, so I always wanted to be an architect. Like, I wanted to grow into an architect. But after high school, just actually immediately after high school, a few bad things happened to my life. I lost a few people who were very significant in my life that made my entire life start tumbling down. So the next thing what happens to me is I end up being a border driver.
A border rider.
Yeah, but I tried farming previously, but I had lived in the city for 17 years of my life. I was the city boy. You don't even know the price of milk and so forth. So what happens is you try farming, and because your mom had a farm and so forth, but that doesn't work out. Like you fail completely. So I had a thing for bikes. I still have a thing for bikes even today. I do the MotoGPs and so forth.
Good for you.
I ended up just doing border. And it was the in thing then, but it was the next thing I could grab to survive at that point in time because my life was at a survival state right now. So I got into software development because of Facebook, I can say that.
How?
I started asking myself, how does Facebook work, and why is it free, and how is it even making money?
And sorry, this is still when you were still a border.
Yeah, I was still a border. Okay. Back then there were Nokia phones, no smartphones, no six-inch phones and so forth. So I started researching using those Nokia phones.
Okay.
We had WAP, you remember WAP?
WAP,
and
yes.
WAP and the Tubidi.
Yes, Tubidi. Yes, oh my goodness, I remember Tubidi.
So I started researching about like how they actually made.
Right.
So apparently there were websites online that could teach you basics of just how to make a basic website. And that's where I started learning from those Nokia phones themselves. And then I got too curious and I realized I was in Kitale. That was like 370 kilometers away from here. I decided like, okay, because this is like Ushago. This is the interior. Nobody knows what the hell even I'm doing here. So I just had to, like raise some money, buy a few clothes because, this is glamorous Nairobi, buy some shoes, and then just bring myself to the city. And I think things fell into place eventually.
So at that time, how old were you then? Because you said you started this at high school. Well, farming.
So after high school, I like 2-3 years were wasted. So probably at 20, I started at 21 years old. No, actually not 21. I started at 22, 23 years old. Yeah, because in between that time, I was trying to survive and do border and so forth.
All right, so here you are in Ushago, trying to figure out how does Facebook work without having to pay for it? What's this thing, etc. How did you then start learning about it?
So at least what I am thankful for is actually my previous education. Because this is where you say the 844 education, you might say it's crap, but it kind of helps. Because as long as you can read and understand things, it's good. Because I never thought I'd get into software engineering. And so I used to borrow a friend's phone every evening. Back then we had this one, 10 MB for 8 shillings. You remember those micro bundles? 10 and then 20 shillings for I don't know how much, 30 MB or something. So I used to buy that data, go and borrow her phone, put that data in. So basically I think I started with Googling, just literally Googling how does Facebook work.
Wow.
And then you go through a few articles and you're like, oh, it's programmed. What is programming? Programming is the art of doing this and this and this. How do I program? You can program using this language and languages. How do I learn these languages? That entire process, it's like a baby step process from just learning to crawl until you walk, until you start feeding well, and still, yeah.
How long did it take for you at least to get the foundation? And the reason why I asked that is because, you know, learning is an everyday experience, but at least how long did it take for you to get that foundation? What you're saying, what is programming?
So, personally, I had a few challenges. Remember, I'm using a Nokia phone, which is just 0.5 inches screen now. I had no access to a laptop for at least for the first probably 1 year of my life and so forth. But if you're really blessed and where you have like internet, actually right now, back then internet was 5 shillings per minute, you remember? So like right now where Zuku is just like we just have internet in abundance, Wi-Fi everywhere. So if you have these things right now, I think it shouldn't take you more than a year or two at least.
Yeah. When did it hit you? Boop, okay, now I want to completely change my career.
It did hit me. It was just a progressive, like, I was struggling, at that point in time, I was struggling to find a way in my life. You know, like, you've been born this city kid, you've had this glamorous life where you were, your mom, because my mom was a hostess in Kenya Airways, so she used to bring me everything. Like, I was the first person to have a mountain bike in our estate, so we were in the middle class. And then now everything goes away. Like, you know, you are used to the PlayStations and everything else, and everything goes away. And so, like, at some point when you're struggling to find that footing, so I was like, I'm meant to do more. So I think it's just a way for me to, I grabbed it and ran with it. I saw this and I was like, this is it, this is my opportunity, and then ran with that. And so, in a matter of, like in 3 years later, is when I just sat back and looked back and I was like, oh, I'm actually a software engineer now. Yeah.
And there's a time that you also worked for Google?
I'm still working with them, but it's a partnership. So I'm a Google developer expert. I was the first one in web technologies.
Okay, let's just pause right there. Because what is a Google developer expert? Just help us understand. What do you do?
So a Google developer expert is two things. So you need to be really skilled in whatever you're doing. So basically right now, software engineering in web technologies, basically building web applications. No, not websites, web applications. So, you know, people think like Facebook is just a website. No, there's a lot of complicated things that are going behind Facebook and even in your browser itself. And so that is a web application. So like you really need to be skilled in building web applications. And then the second thing is community. So before I became a Google developer expert, I joined the technology community in Nairobi and then realized there was no specific community in the art of what I was actually doing. So I started a Nairobi JavaScript community. So JavaScript basically is the language, is the programming language you use to build web applications, most of it. And so I started a community around that. And then a friend of mine linked me to the Google Developer Expert program and told me that this will be a way for you to have a big outreach in impacting other people's lives. Because what I was doing is I was also, while I was learning and improving my skills, I was also sharing to people, oh, by there I've learned this and this is what you can do. This is what you can do. So like you're out there in the community sharing knowledge with people, and Google helps you expand that outreach.
Okay, so I'm guessing right now your CV is like this?
I don't write CVs.
You don't write CVs? You're that person. You don't write CVs. Oh. All right, so, I know. It's okay. Us will continue developing our CVs. Thanks a lot, Eugene, for encouraging us. Okay, Caroline Wanjiku, here you are. You're in university at JKUAT, and you became a medical claims officer. Medical claims officer, software developer. How? When? How did you change? How did you make that change? Take me through your journey.
Absolutely. So that's not actually where the journey began. After I graduated from medical lab sciences, I became a medical lab technologist. I was working in hospitals and then in a research institute. But it was a bit frustrating. If anyone who knows the process of, you know, the lab technology board and the pay that usually is for a lab technologist is not as pleasant. So that's how I transitioned first into claims analysis. Okay. And while I was there, I was working with a system that what first got me excited because it would get a lot done in a short period of time. But then as it grew, it became bulky and difficult to maintain, and the training process was very long, especially for people who weren't medics, because we needed to train them on medical stuff for them to be able to, you know, understand a bit of it. And so I began like being curious because I couldn't influence the decision for the system to be changed. I asked, so what can I influence? And so I became curious about the process, the whole business process, and how to influence it through other ways. I did a diploma, an online diploma on business process management because I was very serious about it. And so during that was when I discovered programming logic is a valuable asset in business process management. And so I was like, how do I do a crash course in programming logic so I can add it to, you know, complement to the business process management diploma, and then go present a project and say, yay, I am awesome, now can you hire me for this? And so I discovered there's no such thing. And so in the process of my searching for ways in which I can gain knowledge in programming, I came across Andela. For me, the transition was quite fast. It's like this week, I am a medical claims analyst. 2 weeks later, I was coding.
Wow.
Yeah. So yes, that's how I transitioned into it.
Coding, right? Now let's talk about that a little bit, since you're the one who has brought it in. Because a lot of the times in movies and series, when they show people coding, they're probably like seated somewhere, they've locked themselves for 6 weeks, pizza is everywhere on the floor, you know, and they've been coding the whole time. Is that the reality of it?
But I would have to say it's a bit, they exaggerate a bit. Yeah, but it's really, I would have to say that's where it begins. Maybe not as fancy, but the process of building anything web application, anything app, begins with a programming language, as Eugene said. And that now, using the programming language to create an application, is the process of coding.
Okay. Yes. And do you see yourselves going back to what you already did? Like for you, Eugene, would you still be interested in doing farming? Or nowadays, you know, we give it the fancy term agribusiness. And a lot of young people are still in agribusiness and thriving very well, right? And for you, as well as Caroline, do you ever see yourself going back to becoming a medical claims officer, Eugene?
So for agriculture, no, but in my mind, I still want to do like greenhouses.
Okay.
But not like me actively, so I don't think that would be farming for me. That would be just me investing into it. For Border, no, but I moved on, kind of, so I upgraded to a superbike.
Yeah. So you still ride?
Yeah, I still ride.
But now for personal use?
Yeah, for personal use, for fun. It's just, it's something in me that I love superbikes.
Yeah, you're the people around Nairobi who just make noise and get across the traffic while some of us are stuck. All right, for you, Caroline, do you ever want to go back to that?
Not to what I was doing,
right.
But what I love about programming is that you can use it in any industry for any industrial purpose, yeah? So for example, the apps in agribusiness that are currently being used, the software in medical business. So I don't entirely leave the whole industry, but I come in a different aspect. Yep.
Okay, and what advice would you give to someone probably who is watching and they're thinking, this is pretty cool. Today I could have studied architecture, I could have done engineering, but my heart is no longer there, right? And they're looking for something new, and not just changing from what they're doing to becoming software developers. Just in general, young people, I think the advantage that we have as young people is that we can easily change and maneuver from one career to another. Unlike our parents, you know, if they became a teacher, they were a teacher. You know, our day and age is a bit different. Yeah. So what advice generally do you have for anyone, especially young people who are dying to change their careers, Caroline?
What I'd say is, first of all, it's okay to change your mind. I started somewhere, ended up somewhere else, and I really love where I am. And if at the beginning someone told me that I would love what I'm doing now, that it was an option, I would have said absolutely not. So it's okay to change your mind. And what advice I'd give to that person is, the moment you make that decision, follow through and find a community that is in that area that you're interested in, get to know how they work, what resources you can access, make use of them, and follow through all the way to the end. Yep.
Beautiful. Okay, Eugene, the guy who doesn't write a CV.
Yeah.
You just have to put that on my face. Okay. But I'll combine two things. Okay. So one is Will Smith's quote, and then something else I've learned over time. So like practically right now, like even in technology itself, it's such a vast field, because like us, we're specializing in web technologies, but there's everything else. There's like hardware development, like, you know, like your fridge, your TV nowadays uses software. So there's that also. There's so much mobile phones. There's so much. It's a big field. So you just have to pick one which works with a specific industry. You don't pick something that doesn't work for Africa. If you're studying from Africa, pick something that works from Africa first of all. And then now as you grow, now find a way how you want to scale to other locations. It is also the major reason why I actually joined Andela, was because Andela was the idea that you take your skills and, like, you know, they put you out there to actually show that Africa has talent and has, like, good software developers, enough as like how people see them from America and from any other location. So the two things I wanted to say is that one, I don't think it's always about like what you're taught in school and everything else. It's from your mind. It's what you want to do, and then you follow it through, as the way Carol said. You follow it through, and what has really helped me is being persistent. One. Perseverance, like just taking in the pressure and just pushing through. Like, it's hard. Life is not easy. So once you accept life is hard, then you just carry forward with it. And then the last one is being patient, because things don't work overnight. I remember when I was starting out, my cousins had just finished university, then they got good jobs, and I was like, oh God, where? My first job was 6,000 Kenya shillings, and I was like, oh God, I think the best I'll ever do is probably 20,000 Kenya shillings. And now I'm doing a lot more, and it's because I kept pushing through, being patient, and just blocking my eyes from the peer pressure around me. And then the last thing is just, Will Smith said, if you really want to do something and you start working towards it, the universe aligns to take you through.
It does.
Yeah.
That it is true. It does. So you've brought something very important, and maybe parents may be feeling, does technology really pay, you know? And there was a conversation I was having with a friend that not everyone can become a Mark Zuckerberg or a Jeff Bezos or a Bill Gates, you know? But generally, especially for young people who want to go into technology or want to make the move, does being in this industry pay?
When I started out, it wasn't that much, but as web systems have actually, systems have started becoming complicated, it means that also the career has become complicated as we go. So the learning curves are slightly longer, but the good thing is hard stuff pay. Like, you know, being a lawyer, doing the hard things pay. And so, yes, I actually agree it pays, especially if you gain access to the foreign market. You can start locally, of course, and everything else, but then like work towards a global standard where you don't just say like, I'm a software developer based in Nairobi and I work within Nairobi because you're trying to lock yourself down to Nairobi. Adhere to the international standards. Find somebody who you really admire from a global perspective and work towards being somewhere like him, and you'll pretty much get the opportunities, because the thing is, because it's a hard career, just like being a doctor and everything else, the number of software developers that exist at the moment cannot quench the market.
Oh, wow.
At all.
The Kenyan market and the African market
Even
in general.
just the global market in general. They were saying by the year 2020, there'll be more than 1 million software development jobs without software developers to fill those positions. Yeah.
Okay, Caroline, for you, what do you say to that? Does being in tech pay? Does it put food on the table?
I would say yes, it does. It gives an opportunity to be a self-starter. Case in point, Eugene here, who has been able to take on cryptocurrency. You have the chance to pick on something, learn it, implement it, and have there's the opportunities for you to actually make money out of it as an individual, or even as someone who's trying to look for a job. So what I love about software development is you're able to present, this is the skills that I have, regardless of your CV. And that on its own is something that gives you a chance not to be overtaken by issues that are bureaucracy related. So yes, I would say it definitely offers more opportunity than anything else.
Let's talk about that, the opportunities and the benefits of being within the tech atmosphere. Like you said, it could be a software developer, it could be something different because it's quite vast. But let's talk about that, the opportunities and benefits that are there, especially in Africa where the soil is still quite, it hasn't been cultivated as much. What are the benefits that are there?
Currently, software development is a problem-solving process continuously, and Africa has so many opportunities for problems to be solved. And what I've admired the most about the tech community in Africa is they come together. People they see something and they just like, I want to try something in this area and come up with an app that solves this problem, regardless of how remote it is, how urban it is. And that way, we're being able to create simple solutions to problems that are eventually global, by the way. So we have people from other countries that are coming in and are looking at what we're coming up with, and they're impressed, and like, we can use this back at home. Maybe we'll just tweak it here and there and implement it. And so the benefits are great in terms of you're able to consistently solve for anything that comes, and there will always be problems to solve. So you will never run out of ways to implement your skills, a community to work with, and it opens you up to global opportunities as well, because you get to work. For example, I work with teams that are all over the world, in Austin, in Accra, in Lagos, and it's an amazing experience.
So problems are a good thing.
Problems are a good thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree that entirely in the terms of like, so the most important thing I think about being a software engineer is the idea that you can actually get a problem, churn out a solution, and push it out to the world, and nobody will restrict you along the way, because it's all technology, right? Of course, there is a lot of workings when you're shipping different products out there. Maybe some require different, like logistics. You can't eliminate that because, but at least it's the idea of being able to have this power that you can actually actualize something from zero to something is a very incredible skill to have. And in addition to all these problems you have out here, right now, I feel like a lot of these problems are they have a technological aspect where they're trying to be solved using some form of technology.
I like the fact that she gave an example of cryptocurrency. Blockchain is a solution.
Yeah, so like right even like personally, my career is shifting towards the blockchain. I started out with cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin and everything, but now like I'm shifting towards like learning how to develop blockchain-based systems.
Right.
But you know, like first of all, you can't learn that in schools. You have to teach yourself.
You have to.
Yeah, so it shows like that all this information is out there for you. You can grab it, build yourself, become somebody, and then like solve anybody's solution, or even solve a solution that has been aching in your head for the previous 5 to 10 years in your life. Yeah.
A lot of people who have been really quite successful in whatever industry they've been in is because they have brought a solution for a problem. And the other thing, I was having a conversation with a few friends, is that perhaps here in Africa, on the African continent, we need to stop copy-pasting businesses, but now become more innovative with solutions, e.g. Mobile banking, mobile money. It is not something now other countries copy-pasted it from here, but it came from here, a green, raw solution, right? Is that the same thing that we also need to do with technology? Instead of, yes, Mark Zuckerberg is quite inspiring, right? But instead of having to copy-paste a Mark Zuckerberg version of Kenya or the African continent, we should be looking for our own green solutions, our own innovations right here, instead of copy-pasting. Eugene, what do you say?
So there are two sides to that. I honestly agree with you in terms of that. But, okay, looking at it from like where I sit is, first of all, is we need the skills and the technologies.
True.
So first of all is we need to be exposed. And this is where like companies like the one we're in, Andela, comes in, where Andela exposes you to the global market. Now you build for other companies out there, they're doing everything, and then you gain all that skill. Then the second thing is, instead of exporting that skill, this is where I urge us as Africans to bring that skill back home.
Right.
Because what we've been doing so centuries and so forth, from like even Kenya, is that we consume a lot of Western culture and Western technology, and we now shift our mindsets towards like how we're going to solve our problems is used in the Western style of things. And reality is that African problems you're facing are very unique to Africa versus problems that Americans are facing. You know, like the other day, I remember just Googling about startup. There's a startup to actually fold your clothes, and you're like, wait, this is somebody who's, you know, that's not a problem we have.
Western problem.
That's the Western problem, you know. And adopting that is bad, because now you can't come and start a startup like that here. People are like, you go to hell.
I know. Now you're teaching us how to fold clothes.
And the good thing about Africa is that because we are really behind market, like we are a couple of years behind, it means that we have so many problems that are like out there that are actually pestering us on a day-to-day basis, and it's up to us to take up those problems to solve, or Westerners will just come and solve them for us, and then they're the ones who are actually going to benefit.
There you go. And at the end of the day, they have the economic
so we need to
benefits.
build ourselves as Africans, and actually now, instead of exporting our skills entirely, just bring that skill home and actually build it.
Caroline, as you just add on top of that, there's something that you say that for you, this allows you to be borderless. You can work with people from Accra to Lagos and etc. Just stretch that for us and just show us how this has become such an advantage, that you can be in Nairobi at an office somewhere working, but then your clients are from Accra, Lagos, Washington, London, whatever. It's borderless in this day and age.
Yeah, it's actually really exciting. So we work with partners in Andela, and so my partner is based in Austin, but the team is distributed in different countries. And so we have our meetings online, where we will have video conferences and we will discuss and we'll brainstorm. Every once in a while, maybe you'll visit the partner location, and maybe you will have a one team building event, but then you go back and you do the work remotely. And exposes you to discovering the rest of the world in terms of how they think, in terms of, first of all, we're not that far off in our ability, the way in which we think or the way in which we address problems. Sometimes I think in Africa we think we are so far off behind, you know, they're so far ahead. No. We all have something to offer, and working with other teams exposes you to how they think. It gives you a different perspective, but it also gives them a different perspective and gives them some new ideas as well. So you get to work with global standards as well, so that your code, the code from Austin, the code from Accra is very much the same.
Wow.
Or the work or the ideas and the solutions that you're solving with is very much the same. You get to think of different markets and how different markets think, implement different market research abilities in the applications and stuff. So.
And as we conclude the conversation, that's where working is going to, where you don't have to be having to be sitting somewhere. It's borderless.
Yeah.
All right?
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, both Eugene